What's up, guys? This week we've got the Toyota Supra. This is the GR 3.0, so we've got the BMW engine in here. And I've had this for a few days already. I've gotten to drive it like a couple hundred miles already, and I guess my biggest question is, why would you spend this much money on what's basically a Toyota? Because while you've got that fantastic engine inside, it's a true two-seater sports car, the rest of the car just feels very Toyota. But I guess we're just going to do a little road trip today and find out if the driving experience overtakes everything else that I guess I don't like about the car so far. But let's get into it. Yeah, this is not the most convenient car to get into. Keep in mind, I'm not even like that tall. I'm not like basketball player tall, but yeah, it's honestly been a little bit of a struggle to get in and out of this thing. And it's kind of wild just because I've driven so many like impractical cars like Ferraris, McLarens, stuff like that. But this is truly a baby boy car. Like if you weigh like over 250 and you're like over 6'3", 6'4", you are gonna be cramped in here, like seriously cramped in here. This is not for the bigger guy, unfortunately. But we're in here now, so let's get the show on the road. Cold start. So we're about 45 minutes into our drive, and man, I've been enjoying myself with this car overall. It's truly fun to drive. I think that's one of the main takeaways anyone should have from this video, is that the Toyota Supra is a genuinely fun car to drive, at least this 3.0 version. And I think it's impossible, honestly, to not have fun in a car that's this small, has rear-wheel drive, and has over 300 horsepower. I think in pretty much any vehicle, that's a combination for having a good time. But a huge benefit that you get with this 3.0 version of the car versus the 2-liter version is the sound. Let's go into fourth gear. Like, yes, we are in sport mode right now, but man, that B58, I don't know, maybe it's just something about having a cabin this small that really allows you to feel that engine and really hear the way it sounds. But this is probably the best sounding example of the B58 that I've gotten to try thus far. I've driven the M340i, the standard 340i. I think the tuning in the exhaust note out of this Supra is just so good out of the box. You've got a nice hint of the burbles when letting off the gas, and I think it's a perfect middle ground of being noticeable but not overdoing it like certain cars tend to do. Let's talk about the design of this car though. I think when this car was first announced, there was a lot of mixed reactions on the overall look and design of this car. To me personally, I feel like the car is not designed badly, objectively badly, right? I just think it really comes down to one's personal taste. Would I necessarily buy this car based on the design alone? Probably not. But I feel like this car gets a lot of reactions from people, even from people who aren't like Supra fans. I was actually going down the Lincoln Tunnel yesterday, and there was some little girl in the back seat of her dad's SUV who rolled the window down and like held her phone out the window to record the car and was egging me on to like do, you know, some flybys and stuff like that. She was all about this car from a design standpoint, at least. And I think the color of this car has something to do with it. I feel like if you are gonna buy the Supra, you honestly might as well get it in like a really nice pop-in color like this. This color is nitro yellow, and I googled pictures of the nitro yellow colorway just so I know what I'd be getting into before taking delivery of it. And in person, it's a lot more of like a goldenish yellow than like a more like banana-y yellow like you see online. Personally, I think it's a nice color on this car, and I would have definitely preferred to get a more interesting colorway than just like a black or a gray or something like that. I think if you're gonna get this car, you might as well get it in a more interesting colorway. Okay, so what do you guys think about the Supra?
I like it, but this is not my car type.
Okay, what about you? What do you think about the Supra?
I like the car, but since it only got 2 seats, I wouldn't really drive it. I would drive like a BMW.
Well, I mean, this is basically a BMW. You know why? Because it has a BMW engine. What do you think about the Supra?
I think the Supra is a really nice car, and I think it's underrated.
Okay, who's the one who said it looked like a Porsche? So you thought it was a Porsche?
Yes.
What made you think that this was a Porsche?
Because it's like It's shaped like a Porsche.
I think that's pretty. I think it's a pretty valid critique, especially when you guys were like that far away.
I thought that was an AMG. He said it was a Mustang. Then he said it was a Corvette.
So yeah, I think there are some Toyotas, some BMWs that are designed just objectively badly, honestly. But I think this car really just comes down to your personal taste. And it's not really my kind of car as far as overall styling, but I don't think it's a badly designed car. It's just not for me. Let's talk about the interior as well, because that's also where this car is a little bit of a mixed bag. So overall, it doesn't really scream 60 plus grand in here. We've got some carbon fiber trim here and there. We've got leather seats and a handful of nice premium looking touches to the car, but overall, it kind of looks like a Toyota Prius in here that's had some modifications done to it. I posted a picture of the interior of this car the day I took delivery of it and posted it in the Cars with Miles Discord, and definitely check that out if you want to be a part of our Discord and chat with me more often, because that's where you'll be able to communicate with me the most. So links for our Discord will be in the description down below. But yeah, half the guys in our Discord were saying, bro, I thought it was a Prius before you told me that it was a Supra on the inside. And I was like, I think that kind of sums it up, to be honest, especially with the steering wheel. There are definitely hints of BMW here and there with the paddle shifters, the gear selector. Obviously, we have our iDrive knob because this car basically is a BMW from a software perspective. The display is very similar to all the previous generation BMWs with iDrive 7, 6, whatever version of it that it is. But overall, it doesn't really feel that premium. I think the main thing for me, as far as like noticing that this is really a Toyota, is the speaker system. We've got this JBL sound system in here. We don't have the Harman Kardon or Bowers and Wilkins sound system that we've got in like the other BMW models. And yeah, it's not the best sound system I've heard in a while, honestly. I constantly feel like I need to crank the volume up to get more out of the sound, and when you're doing that in a car, when you feel like you constantly have to crank up the volume, that's because the sound system is not good. The best sound systems in a car, in my opinion, are the kinds that you don't feel like you constantly need to crank up to feel like you need to get more out of the sound from inside of the car. Thankfully, the bass response is solid. It doesn't get too clippy at higher volumes, but the overall mids and highs clarity is just okay. It's not really that impressive at all. But keep in mind, this is a driver's car. This is not like a 5 or 7 series where you get inside and are expected being blown away by the sound quality of the car. This car is really about the driving experience, and so I can somewhat give it a pass, but at the same time, if there's going to be so much of BMW in this car, they could have had the BMW sound system, but who knows how much more this car would have cost if they included that. Another thing is the cup holder. I feel like it's just very awkward to reach like this to like grab your cup out of the cup holder or your water bottle, whatever you've got in here. Something that BMW used to do was have the cup holders basically right above the dash is like a little slit button that you could just press and they would pop out, as opposed to being fixed holes like inside the center console area. You would basically just have them be little slots that you would press and then they would pop out. And yes, they had an issue where they were known to break in a lot of cars, but I feel like from a design standpoint, it's kind of genius if you ask me. And it's something that I think this car could have benefited from, given how little space there is in here. I would have definitely appreciated something like that. So I wanted to come down and hang with my friend Rich, who's quite the Supra fan, and I thought it'd be good to get his thoughts on the car. Here's our friend Rich.
Up. That's so beautiful, bro.
So is this your first time seeing a Supra in person?
No, but it's the first time me seeing it like for more than a minute.
For more than a minute.
For more than a minute. I passed by, I see it. I saw one in like gunmetal gray, but just the fact that in yellow, yeah, the yellow really pops.
What are overall styling impressions?
It is very unique. It definitely stands out. I think if you don't know like cars as a normal person, you'd be like, oh shoot, what is that? Yeah, it definitely looks like its own unique car. Never seen anything like it. Doesn't look like a BMW at all. It's Toyota. Miles did say it was kind of low. Oh, and I just hit my head there too. So, oh shoot. Yep. Yep, you're gonna, if you're a tall guy like me,
Like
you're
your head
gonna-
is literally like rubbing against the roof.
Yeah, it's my hair right up here, so I'd say like an inch of clearance. If I was a little bit of a wider guy, I would say it may not be the best for daily. I think for me, I think this is just right about the cutoff.
Let's do a little pull. We're on some pretty nice roads right now. We're about 10 minutes out from our destination. Let's talk about the driving experience a little bit, because that's really why you buy this car over everything else. You know, it's not really about the interior or any technological features, software features that makes this car interesting. It really just comes down to the driving experience. And overall, this car is just a blast to drive, quite honestly. It's so engaging. You truly feel the road. Steering feel is excellent, super precise. This has got the standard like 8-speed auto that a lot of modern performance-y and sports cars have. And in certain vehicles, like I've said, it can feel a little bit dull, not that engaging to drive. But in this car, it feels super engaging. You pretty much feel every shift up to about 5th gear. You get a nice little kick, you know, on every upshift. Kind of reminds me of the Lamborghini Aventador, but in a much less aggressive way. But you know, kind of that same sort of like kick you in the back feeling that you get on pretty much every shift up to about 5th gear. And you know, a lot of purists are gonna be like, manual only, manual is the only way. But I feel like if you want something that's more dailyable, but still like engaging as far as transmission feel, the automatic is honestly not a bad option if you ask me. And just because this is a car I would want to drive every day if I bought it, I'd probably go for the auto, just because, you know, dealing with the manual transmission, especially in like traffic situations, it can just be tiring to have to deal with every single day. And while yes, the automatic isn't as engaging as a manual transmission where you're controlling every gear shift yourself, I'd say it's still a very solid option for a daily.
See it, Miles? Oh, baby.
I think this car sounds pretty good on the outside too. Like when doing like tunnel runs and stuff like that, you get a nice, you can hear the car like decently well.
There's no droning either, which is very good too. Don't expect that.
Yeah, the pops and bangs sound very natural. What are your thoughts as like a passenger?
Tall passenger? You do get a lot of leg room. Definitely for sure.
Yeah, I'd say the legroom is good enough. Oh, is that a Z06? Oh no, it's not.
No.
That's like the Z06 launch color.
Let's go, baby. Oh, that's so natural. It sounds so natural. It's not going to be anything like Hellcats or Dodges where it's like very aggressive. Oh, it sounds very earthly. I'm not sure if that's the word for it, but like.
I like the tone. Second.
Oh, and it can get mean.
Something I like is that the manual mode is a true manual mode. So like when I revved it up to second, it held on to the gear until I shifted.
Oh, so you're saying it doesn't like go to the next
Right,
gear?
it doesn't auto upshift like a lot of
You're
like
right, okay.
not real sports cars do. Yeah, I will say the handling is good. I'm not really that used to having the chassis be so like front heavy, because obviously you don't have much behind you, but the front end is pretty elongated. If that makes any sense. Obviously you can kind of tell based on the design. But even given that, it still feels very balanced. When taking this thing around bends, around corners, it feels very planted. I think it just takes some getting used to like the overall like chassis balance of the way the chassis is laid out, where it's very front heavy. Everything's really in the front. It's very easy for the rear end to get away from you. Like if you just floor it from a standstill, you might be all over the place. You might go into a ditch. But once you're already going, like it feels very planted, very confident. It's just like basically from a standstill, like especially if your tires are not warm, yeah, you might end up somewhere where you don't want to be in this car. So you got to be careful, you know. You people just look at this as like a Toyota, but this car will kill you if you are not driving responsibly. I mean, that's any car, right? If you think you can just get in and start flooring it, especially if you're not that experienced of a driver, it will show you otherwise, basically.
I think if you're taking this out on long car trips too, if like maybe you're a passenger princess and you're sleeping, not the most comfortable.
Nah. I mean,
not.
as like a long distance road trip car, I wouldn't want to do it. I mean, I drove this car about an hour and 20 minutes to get down here. And by the time I was done and got out, I was like, man, it feels good to just get out of this thing, you know?
Oh, it's one of those feelings.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think if you're looking for something that's a bit more like Grand Toury-ish and like comfort-oriented, the Z4 is probably the better car.
What? You would say that?
I mean, honestly, there's a handful of things about this car that make me feel like if you don't care about coupe versus convertible / roadster, I think the Z4 is the better option, just purely based on what you're getting for what you pay. The Z4 is a BMW, I think, through and through when it comes to sound system, overall interior quality. It's not 100% BMW, it's like 75%, 80% BMW, but you still have BMW pricing. Like I said, this car, depending on where you live, if you fully option it out after tax, you're looking at practically 70 grand, which is a lot. I haven't gotten to drive the 2-liter, so I can't say for myself whether that would be the more fun car to drive or the more reasonable car to drive in terms of like price to performance. As far as performance, this is the one you want, obviously. Why would you, like, if you're gonna get a Supra, you want one that kind of feels like a little scary to drive, you know, just a little bit, you know. You're not gonna be able to master this car in like one day of owning it, like you would like a lot of lower horsepower cars. Fun fact, I was supposed to take delivery of the manual version of this car before I got this automatic, and about a week later, the Toyota rep hit me and he says, yeah, so someone put this in a ditch, so you'll have to wait for the manual, or we can try to get you in an automatic a little bit later.
I feel like the manual will be much more fun to drive, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I think in general, any manual car is going to be more fun from a pure engagement perspective.
If you're looking at daily this,
I think the automatic. I think the automatic is the better daily, and unlike other cars with this like ZF 8-speed transmission, you feel every shift up to about 5th gear. So, you know, you feel those shifts, right?
I definitely can. It's pretty smooth too.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's smooth, but you can still feel it. Just based on how this car feels to be inside of, do you think you would want to own a car like this for the nearly 70 grand price point?
I'll be honest, I was kind of a little bit let down. I think I was expecting a little bit too much out of this Toyota. It definitely did wow when I looked at it from the outside, and then getting inside and kind of just being here for the first like hour so far, I can pick up on a few like minor details, like the trim doesn't look as luxurious. The seats are very nice, but it did look like they cut some corners, especially in the passenger.
Yeah, the seats definitely look better than they feel, which
is... I can vouch for that, yep.
Which is, I mean, a lot of like sports car seats, like especially like, you know, the bucket seats in like a McLaren or something like that, they look nice and they feel fine for like the first like minute. A lot of people like to compare this to the Z4 because it's the true BMW 2-seater with the same engine, with the same general like chassis layout, much more front heavy. But I think this car would definitely get you a lot more attention. I think the Z4 is a lot more under the radar, and I think it's the fact that this car is a Toyota that people go and be like, wait, whoa, that's a Toyota, that's kind of weird. At least the people who don't know what a Supra is.
I think it's really funny when, like, if you're like a normal person who, you know, just knows a little bit about cars but doesn't see anything like this, they'll be caught off guard like, Toyota makes these?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this car is such a wacky looking car. Honestly, you might as well go all the way and just not like whack isn't bad, but kind of like wacky is in terms of like it's very out there. Like,
yeah, it's very out there.
When this car was first announced, there were so many people who were very split on like whether they like the car from a design perspective.
I was one of them.
Me personally, when I first saw it, I was not really that big of a fan. I think I had to see the car in person driving before I was sold on it, to be honest.
It's grown on me. It's grown on me a lot. do I think, to your question earlier, is it worth like 70 grand final price after all, like the paperwork, taxes? I mean, that's a hard one.
Because think about, like, yes, if you're looking for a true two-seater driver-focused car, there really isn't much at this price point, at least that offers like the same amount of power. Like, you've got the Miata, but that car is
I was just gonna say that
is horrendously slow in comparison, and obviously is even lower quality overall, even though I do think the Miata is like, I think it's a better looking car, honestly. For this price point, I mean, you could step it up a little bit and go Porsche, but you're not gonna have as much power at a base level Porsche price as you would something like this. But if you don't have Porsche money and you can't step up to that, this is the only like true driver focused, not four-seater, but true two-seater driver focused sports car that has, for the size, a lot of power, great engagement, great sound. Well, not great, but I'd say really good. I don't know. I think you just have to really love the Supra and the Supra lineage and the lore of the Supra to be into a car like this.
Overall, 60 grand for a Toyota is a big ask, but this car is truly one of a kind in terms of the design and performance feature set. And like I said, it's truly fun to drive and easy to do so every day. And while I wouldn't buy one for MSRP, I think a used one for around 50 grand is the perfect two-seater sports coupe if you ask me. Thanks for watching.
All right,